So you want to buy an adult day center, but you don't know what the value is. How do you come up with the purchase price? It's a great question, and I wish I had the answer for you, but I can't share it until you like, comment, subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Do it now. Don't wait. What you waiting for? Stop procrastinating. Did you do it yet? Okay, can we move on? Let's go. My name is Chris Chan, the founder and CEO of Active Age Daytime Senior Care, and today we're talking about how do you come up with the purchase price that you want to pay for an adult day center that you're looking at. So I had someone in our Facebook group the other day that asked, hey Chris, what multiple on EBITDA, is kind of standard for adult day? And quite frankly, there isn't one, because you really need to have enterprise value in order to come up with like a standardized multiple for adult day. But there's so few like larger multi-unit, multi-location adult day center operators that are for sale that you don't have enough like sales to actually understand what the typical multiple is. The reason why you can put a multiple on maybe real estate or on say software is because there's tons of comps to go off of, so you just have an idea of what the going rate is for something like that. But in adult day, it's gonna vary so much on so many factors that there is no easy answer like that. And this is where you gotta take into consideration these 5 things that we're gonna go over here today. And you really gotta ask yourself, what is this worth to me based on these factors? Okay, so in most cases, when you're buying an adult day center, you're gonna be purchasing something from a mom and pop small business. More than likely, you're gonna be getting their books, which are gonna be like probably handwritten P&Ls instead of something that's like actually done correctly in QuickBooks. Of course, there's gonna be some that have all their stuff together and are able to provide that information to you, but you're gonna find more often than not that small businesses don't typically do accounting properly. You might ask them for their most recent monthly P&L, and they may be like, oh, we don't do that every month. We do that once a year. So a lot of times in small business, it's gonna be hard to actually understand exactly what the business is worth without you trying to come up with these things and say, okay, this is what it's worth to me. And you wanna ask yourself these 5 questions. Number 1, is there any assets involved? Is the sale of this adult day center include real estate at all? Obviously, if it includes real estate, that's gonna be a big asset, and that'll actually help you come up with and get the financing you might need, especially over a longer term, say like 15, 20, 25 years, that you may not otherwise be able to get if you're just buying just the business and it's in a leased space as opposed to a piece of real estate. Number 2 is there any kitchen equipment? Okay, so is there really anything of value? I mean, look, if you go inside the place and it's got some chairs and tables, I mean, are they really in great condition? Are they brand new? Like, did they just drop 300 grand on them? Or like at the end of the day, you're taking those to Goodwill. You can sell them for like $5 a chair, $10 a table. Like, what is it really worth? Okay, so the thing is like, the things that's gonna have like maybe real value is probably gonna have to do with the kitchen equipment. It's probably gonna have to do with maybe computers. I'm not sure how many of those they might have. And some furniture, just depending on the shape of the furniture, are there any, is there any TV? Is there any like technology or any other equipment that's gonna have real tangible value? And if so, you wanna make a list of those things. Like, what is that worth to you? What is this worth to you? What is this worth to you? Like, take all the furniture and stuff like that. All right, like, if it's $5 a chair and $10 a table, this is what that's worth, okay? And you're gonna add those things up. So at least you have an idea of, okay, at least if I'm buying this thing and I had to liquidate today, like what would the assets involved in this business be worth, okay? Number 2, you wanna ask yourself when it comes to debt service, are you going to be getting a loan to purchase this business or are you paying cash for it? Okay, so if you're gonna be getting a loan to purchase this business, is that loan amortized over 10 years? Is it amortized over 15 or 20 years? What is the length of that lease that this business is in? If you're trying to get a loan and the lease only has 5 years left on it and there's no option to renew, it may be hard to get a loan, because you're going to need to make sure that like you have a lease in place that's like at least 5 years with an option for you to renew for another 5 years for you to be able to maybe even get a loan that's amortized over 10 years as opposed to being able to amortize over 5 years, because your debt service, this monthly payment that you're going to be paying in interest, like if you amortize it over 5 years versus 10 or, over 10 versus 15, like it's gonna make a big difference on your ability to cash flow and pay that loan back every month, plus keep enough money for yourself. So how big of a loan are you going to need? is that your plan is to take out a loan, or are you paying cash? How much of a down payment are you gonna be putting down if you're gonna take out a loan? And is there any possibility that you could get seller financing? Again, all of these things may depend on what this business is worth to you, because if you have to go and borrow the money, and you got to borrow it at a high interest rate, and you got to borrow it over a short period of time because it has a short lease that's left on this business, then the reality of it is that business may not be worth as much to you as if like maybe the business had a 10-year lease, and then you could borrow that money over 10 years. Now that cost of capital is going to be maybe a little bit less per month. Therefore, the business may have more value like over that 10-year period, okay? And so you have to ask yourself these questions like, what do I feel comfortable taking on as far as a loan payment? What is that loan payment going to be? Because, obviously, if you can service the debt with the business and you can still retain a profit, then you're not as concerned with the total loan amount as much as you're concerned about, can I make a profit and service the debt? If the business can pay for the debt and I can make a profit, then the total loan amount's not as big of a deal as the total loan payment. Does that make sense? Number 3 is cash flow. So this debt service issue is going to lead right into the cash flow side of things. The reality of it is that on your P&L, you may be profitable, but you may have a negative cash flow, and this could be because of the fact that you have a loan. And so what could happen here is that from a P&L standpoint, you may be like, oh, look, I am profitable, but the reality of it is that your debt service amount is so large that the amount that you're paying in interest and principal is actually causing you to have a negative cash flow. And if you have a negative cash flow, you're gonna burn through all your cash at some point in time, regardless of whether or not you're profitable, right? So you wanna make sure okay, with me adding debt to this business, am I cash flow positive and am I profitable, right? So is my cash flow statement gonna be positive? Is there money continuing to come into the business and stay in the business through the operating, profits, of the business? Or it's profitable, but it has a negative cash flow. So I'm still losing money every month, right? Money's still coming out of the business. More money's coming out of it than is going into it, regardless of how profitable I am, right? And you might need to understand what a cash flow statement is a little bit more to understand what I'm talking about here. But the reality of the situation is, and I say the reality of it is a lot. I need to stop doing that. I've noticed that. But anyways, I'm gonna try it. If I say it again, comment, hit the button, hit the like button, do something. Make me feel it, okay? So I don't have to keep saying that. The reality of it is, yes, this is the reality. We're talking about the reality. That's all we're talking about one time. Cash flow, debt service, am I profitable, and do I have a positive cash flow? Number 4, what's the upside potential? If the place is full, right, and the only upside potential you have is to increase rates, then what is that amount, right? How much can you increase rates? Now, if you're in an area that maybe accepts Medicaid, maybe you don't dictate the rates. Maybe the Medicaid organization or the MCO or wherever you're at, whoever manages the dollar amount that's spent per day or per hour, per 15-minute increment, however your state manages these funds, maybe you have zero control over whether or not the rates go up, right? So then in that situation, you have to ask yourself, is there upside? So if it's completely full and you're not able to adjust rates upwards, then you really don't have a lot of upside. The business is only worth what it's producing today. And see, what happens is sometimes people might purchase a business and they might pay a little bit more than what it's currently worth today because they know that over the next 2, 3, and 4, or 5 years that there's upside there. They can increase revenue by 50%. They can increase revenue by 100%, and they can make that business more valuable, right? So they might be willing to pay a little bit more than what today's worth is because they know they can have this upside potential, right? So you need to know, what is your upside, right? Is it at half capacity of what it's licensed for? And you increase your rate, your daily rate, your monthly rate, your hourly rate, however you do your billing. Is that possible? And can you increase your census? And if so, what is the number that you can increase your total annual revenue by? Is it 100,000 a year? 200,000, 500,000 per year? Understanding what that number could be is also gonna play a factor into what you value this business as. So as I'm going through these things, I just want you to make a list. Okay, these lists of all the assets. This is the list this is the amount of debt service or the amount of debt I'm willing to take on, and the max, monthly debt payment I'm willing to make. If I do this based on projections of the current business operation, am I cash flow positive or am I cash flow negative? Meaning, can I pay those debts, that interest and principal payment, and still actually be cash flow positive? Number 4, is there upside? And then by how much? 100 grand, 200 grand, 500 grand. Look, right now, I'm just asking you to write down these answers, okay, to each of these things, and then we can go back later and figure out how to come up with the valuation based on this. Okay, so number 4 is the potential upside. Make a specific list of exactly how many more members you can get and exactly how much more revenue you can produce, and maybe the exact amount of how much you're able to increase the rate for those maybe private pay folks that you're able to increase the rate for. And then if so, on the Medicaid side, can you renegotiate or not? Number 5 is, are you planning on using this as a passive investment or as an active investment? Meaning, do you plan to just be the owner that's putting up the capital, and your intention is to keep the manager that is working there on board and make sure that that manager keeps their team together, and you're coming in as just the owner to provide the capital and the resources and the things that you need to that manager? And if so, then you need to be having these conversations with that seller to find out, hey, what is this manager's plans? Is there a way for me to work out something with the manager for them to stay on for a certain period of time, or for you as the seller to stay on for a certain period of time to help transition everything over as I take over? Or do you want to become the operator, where you come in there and you just completely rearrange the staffing schedule, kind of reorganize the way the place is set up from a structural standpoint? The reality, I'm gonna say it again. I guess I'm saying that. At least I caught myself this time. The thing is you want to understand, are you gonna be playing an active, role in this investment, or are you just trying to get passive income, okay? Because this is gonna be important in the way you value this business, and it's gonna be important that you understand, is the seller actually selling you a business, or are they selling you a job? And how can you get some validation to know, whether the team is tight and they're excited and they're motivated to continue with you, and that way you can kind of have more of a passive investment? Or is this something where you're gonna come in there and you're gonna have to be hands-on as an operator, as a leader, as the manager for 6 months to 12, 24 months, however long that might be? So ask yourself these questions, make a list, write down what all of these things are gonna be as you go through these 5 things, okay? And then from that, we can get better clarity on, what is this business worth? What am I willing to pay for it, okay? And that is really the most important thing, because at the end of the day, it only makes sense if you feel comfortable with the number. Give yourself a low end and a high end based on all of these calculations here. What is this business worth to me? It doesn't matter necessarily what the seller is trying to sell it for, because they could have worked and had this thing for 20 years and they think it's worth some fairy tale number, but is any buyer really gonna come in there and pay that number? No, don't get hung up on that. Only spend the money, or only make an offer for an amount that you truly feel comfortable valuing this business based on these 5 things. So you gotta make sure that you feel comfortable that this business is profitable and is cash flow positive, and it's a longer term investment, meaning, is that lease longer than 5 years? Do you know that you've secured this space where you can operate this business out of for a long period of time, where you can actually borrow for 10 plus years? So I hope this is helpful, guys. Sometimes when you're evaluating how much is it worth, it can depend on so many factors. And of course, the size of it, how big the staff is, what's the overhead, are there a lot of debts in the business? What of those debts or leases are you assuming, which of those will be paid off at the time of the sale? There's so much stuff that goes into this, but I can tell you there is no easy answer 2x EBITDA, 4x EBITDA, 5x EBITDA. No, this entire industry, Adult Day, is so discombobulated that there is no one standard multiple that you can use for your valuing this business. It's it really just depends on the state, the seller, the size, the revenue, the potential, and all these things that are listed here. So anyways, guys, thank you for joining me on this one. Hope this was helpful. I know it's a little longer. Gotta take little notes on this one. May have to go back, rewatch it, kind of make the notes yourself, but write these things down. Make a list of these things. This will help you clarify what it's worth to you, okay? If you wanna join us on our monthly webinars, go to adcpro.com, join our private Facebook group. Make sure you check out all of our videos on YouTube. And if you're interested in learning how to own your very own Active Age franchise, go to activeagecare.com/franchise. We'll see you on the next one. Peace. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to learn how to open your own adult daycare center, go to adcpro.com. If you'd like the latest business tips, click here, and make sure you subscribe to our channel. Click here. We'll see you guys next time.